everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Public History and Arts. My name is Myriam, her name is Nada, and today we have the beautiful Fayrouz Karawya with us. I'm so happy that we finally managed to schedule this, Fayrouz, and we're so happy to have you with us. Let me just start by saying welcome, but also I love your name. I I don't know if people outside of the Arab world understand how important it is
It's
for someone
it's
to be
very
called
common name, right?
Fayrouz.
Or
It's a beautiful name, and I'm biased because my older sister
yeah,
is Fayrouz, but also Fayrouz,
okay.
the Fayrouz,
The
and
Favorite, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Our
thank you for.
beloved.
So for those of you who don't know Fayrouz, I'll introduce you to her, and then we'll start with the questions as usual. Nada, then me, Nada, then me, and we try and incorporate the answers from our guests. So, Fayrouz Karawya is an Egyptian indie singer, songwriter, writer, and researcher. She has released 6 albums and 120 singles since 2006, collaborating across music, theater, and film. Karawya has led research projects on gender, musicology, and Arab popular culture. As a cultural researcher and critic, she has authored 2 books, Constructions of Chaos in 2010 and Kol Da Kan Leih, which translates to Why Did All of This Happen in 2022. The latter explores the cultural history of Egyptian mainstream music spanning across the late 19th century to the present. Fayrouz has a master's degree in cultural anthropology from the American University in Cairo, focusing on Egyptian cinema and its socio-political context, and she has a Ph.D. in cultural studies from the Sorbonne University, Paris 4, focusing on the evolution and transformations of Egypt's digital memosphere post 2023 within its socio-political and post-revolutionary contexts. Welcome, Fayrouz. This is a very interesting bio in the sense that you've done a billion things um, during a period of time in Egypt and in the Arab world that was very heavy with a lot of changes, let's say, and a lot of things that are worth researching, but also worth speaking about. And we're happy to have you here with us today to talk about all of this. Thank you.
I'm happier. Thank you, both of you, for hosting me, and I hope we could have a fun session.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have a very interesting and fun session. And okay, I'm not going to be adding much to like the introduction Miriam just gave us. So you're an academic and you're a singer and you're a researcher and you're a writer and you're so many things. And today we're going to try to talk about all these things and about Kol Da Kan Leih, your fantastic book. So maybe let's start by like a general question that can incorporate all these elements of your work together and talk about singing and how it relates to history. So my question would be, um, songs are by nature public products, as in they're published and they're shared with the public. So do you think that they can be also tools to disseminate a message about history that wouldn't normally be shared or disseminated, or that wouldn't be accessible by the public without it? And if so, how do you show this in your work?
Uh, yes, songs are, from a certain point of view, a social body. Like it's partly an artistic, of course, form, and in another way, it lives through history. I mean, across history, because of its public presence. Essentially, the way of publishing this form happens on social grounds. And it has a kind of longevity, we can say, thanks to the recording process. Before that, of course, we lost a lot because we didn't have this way of documentation of what was happening in singing traditions, what are the products that were, especially before the 19th century, we can say that the heritage that at whatever nation is not what we know about it. Now we say that this tradition dates back 2000 years. This is not true, because what happened in 1000 years, we don't have really a recording to listen to it. But since we are the generations that cherished this long heritage behind us, we have, for example, someone like me have at least 150 years behind before I start singing. History is there in a way or another. Even if you have this, we can say, ultra contemporary interest in your songs, like you are very interested in what's happening and how to have a statement about it, or say something about your reality. But you discover, especially after working in the field like for many years, you discover that there's the music traditions that preceded you are there in your music. The geographical spot from where you're working, for example, I started in 2016 to get really interested about the boundaries of the Egyptian territory and how musical exchange happened through these frontiers. Like I developed tracks that relate the Shami folk with the Egyptian one, because there was this kind of cultural unit, I can say, in some ways. The southern part of Egypt, the same. I developed tracks from there. The even the Moroccan, like Le Grand Maroc, I want to say, there was always this come and go and exchange, musical exchange, and this finally could show also not only in the songs, it shows in the book, in Kol Da Kan Leih, how you develop your own cultural identity, always in mutuality and exchange. So this is how history is carried on the back of singing, even if you don't really want to make that very in the front.
Thank you, Fayrouz. I think this is a very thorough answer, and it also connects with, I think, how we want the rest of the interview to be. Like, you already touched upon many points that we're going to want to elaborate on in our next question. So, thank you. Myriam?
Too.
Yes, it's really nice to have a conversation with someone who does the research but also the practice. And when you describe how you build your songs, it feels like being in the backstage. It's really nice. It's like, oh, now I know how she does it. Uh, Maybe if we go back to your book, Kol Da Kan Leih, in your book you talk about songs as a way to shape collective memory. And I'm curious to know, when you talk about collective memory and the way the songs participate in this process, are you referring to the documentation of history, or are you referring to a specific aspect where you go into history, you decide that this should be kept, and then you curate it in a way that becomes part of the song for people to remember after? But you also go like, no, this is not worth it, so you leave out parts of history. It's like you're the magician who goes in history and decides, okay, I want people in 150 years to remember an incident that happened that nobody paid attention to, and then you make a song out of it. Is this how you work with the process of building collective memory through music or through songs?
Well, I think it depends on who writes history, because here you have a very big question, and any history, any written history, is kind of selective. Like you cannot actually grasp or present the whole history. You always have your selections, what to focus on, what is central, what is marginal, and what point of view you are looking at history from. You are from the authoritarian class, for example, or you are from the coming from below, we can say, or even as a researcher, you have your biases. You cannot neglect this kind of reflexive approach to history. So actually, we don't have one history narrative, and we don't have also one collective memory. But we can say that there is factors, of course, that influence the composition of such a collective memory. Like, for example, the official history, the documentation you have, I mean, in singing, which songs garnered the most popularity because they were aired or displayed on official media, when official media actually had also much more influence before our era and internet and this creates part of what stays in collective memory and what is neglected. You have also the stardom which and charisma, and this is a very also important aspect. Who is the artist and what are the powerful tools of this artist at his or her epoch to make this imprint on history? When I have a song made by Abdul Halim Hafiz, for example, in the 60s, it's different than the song created by Shafiq Jalal or Muhammad Rushdie or whoever. So this one has, we can say, an afterlife, a longer afterlife to be there in history. You have also the connection to historical junctures. Some songs have this luck to be at their rendezvous with history. Like this is the occasion that you came with your song, and maybe sometimes you find the connection is not really direct. The song is not speaking about this event, but it was released at the time this event happened, and then it remained in history. So in general, I think our collective memory is always an arena of negotiating what will stay, what will disappear, and this happens all the time. You have Ahmad Adawiya as an example for at the time when he showed up, there was plenty of people who don't want to inscribe him into collective memory. But now we see people using his idol, using Adawiya as an idol to say that other singers, other Shabi singers, are now very shallow and bad, and they don't have the stylistics and so on. So this is not the same Ahmad Adawiya that you'd talk about in the 80s or the 70s, for example.
Yeah, and it's really beautiful to also, because you mentioned something in your answer which I think not a lot of people focus on. You mentioned the importance of having a charismatic singer. Like we always think about the medium and the public. We don't focus enough on the person who's mediating all of this, because sometimes you have beautiful songs carried out by like beautiful singers who just don't happen to have that charisma, that thing that stays in people's mind, and then it ends up being forgotten. No matter how complex your work is, no matter how conceptual, no matter how well built it is, it just doesn't happen. And I think this also speaks on public history. When we, us practitioners, do public history, sometimes we come with an idea, we do a project that's really well done, we present it to the public, and then we don't get the feedback that we had in mind at the beginning. It's because some people don't know how to speak publicly. Some people don't have what it takes to be with people the whole time. Some people don't have the best performance, and so on and so forth. And this is really nice, and I really think we should focus more on not theorizing, but maybe writing about this aspect, about the power of the artists themselves in the piece that's being presented. It's really nice. Thank you.
I think this answer is also very, I mean, it's very multi-layered, because we're talking about the maybe the official channels on which or through which songs are disseminated among the or to the public, historically speaking, before the internet, and like how this created these iconic I mean, it's an iconic moment coupled with an iconic product, a song, and then like you have this perfect artist, and boom, you have something that is there forever. Doesn't necessarily have to be what was happening. It's just like what was shared at the moment, and we didn't have anything else And now, I mean, I was going to ask you to give us examples about songs from Egypt or from the Arab world, if you prefer, that could document socio-political context or events. But then I want to add to this also, like, how do you think this is happening at the time when, like, it's the no more one source or one channel that gets to share this product with the public? Like, how is this happening now, and how are like the next generations going to look at us and say, "Oh, this is what was happening in 2025." I don't know if it's like
Yeah,
organized enough.
you're absolutely right that there is a major difference because of what we spoke about. We have like plenty of people now who have, I can say, entitlement to write history. Like we have a bunch of numerous podcasts, for example, like, or we have this chance to have this talk together. This is part of what we are documenting right now, or and what will be left for the future. And this was not the case like 40 or 50 years ago, when we had the opportunity for some people, some charismatic artists, some music producers to arise in a time that they had a very high chance to leave their traces on history without a lot of contestation, like the times of 50s and 60s, like I said. The time in Egypt, for example, you had the revolution of 1919. You have remains of the songs and the theater pieces that were there, but they were reimagined. I mean, this kind of history was written retrospectively. So the selections, for example, of Said Darwish to become Fannan al-Shab, the artist of the people, happened by the people of the 1952 coup d'etat. It didn't happen at the time of Said Darwish. It was not that momentary. So this is a history written, and we chose who is the iconic figure who will hold or carry this history on their back. In the 50s and 60s, we had a different approach, because these forces who rose to power at the time were the liberators of the colonized Arab countries, in the majority of them, in every country. So these rulers cherished at the same time a monopoly on media, as we spoke, and that they had their quote unquote rightful propaganda, state sponsored propaganda, because they were leading the people to their first independence, through their first independence steps. And then there came the artists. For example, I will go away a little bit. Rahbaniya in Lebanon, they were a product of this fusion between a popular sound that the artists created, the search for a Lebanese identity for the song, in a newly independent country, a country that gained independence at 1943. So this kind of meeting between a rising great artists like Asir Rahbani and Mansour, and at the same time the search coming from the new powers of independence in the country. So this funded, for example, their project with the right amount of funding. Like we have this at the 50s and 60s, we can notice the sound of orchestration with a lot of musicians, affordable and present in the recordings of Rahbaniya, of Muhammad Abdul Wahab, of Abdul Halim Hafiz. You can even notice that now it's very difficult for a majority of artists to gain this kind of funding. It's just comparatively, there are few who are enjoying this. But when you were part of this statist presence. You have access to the official radio, for example. Your recordings are much more rich with orchestration, with musicians, with arrangements that are a bit more complex. So even the sound of the epoch is created not only with the wishes of artists, but it is also created with through many factors that influence the music and sound produced. If this could be an answer to what you asked for.
It is an answer. I mean, I don't think there is an easy answer or like a straightforward one. And
Yeah.
yeah, now I'm thinking that when I was younger and my mom would play Abdul Wahab, and I'd be like, why is this music so different? Why is there so much noise in the background? It's not
Mm.
clean. I can't just say, oh, there is some music in the background. I can hear a lot of different instruments. And my mom was like, "Oh yeah, this was how we made music. This was because you
Yeah,
can actually hear the music." And I would be like, "No, it's not. Like
I'm not hearing music, I'm hearing noise.
I'm hearing noise." Now I can understand that this, like for me, is the sound of the epoch. It's like this big orchestra. Like I actually reading your book, I remember that I was like, "Oh, that's really, really interesting." I ended up listening to Abdul Wahab on the beach, and then like the cafeteria had to ask me to like lower it down because it was bothering everyone around me
Okay.
because they were all like 14 and 15 years old, and I was there with my big speaker listening to Abdul Wahab at 5 a.m. and they were like, "What's wrong with you? Please lower this down because we can't play
Uh,
our music." So
okay.
it doesn't
This
sound
is a good
like
compliment about the book anyway. Thank you.
no, it was a great no, it was a great read. I really enjoyed it. I read it in the North Coast. But like for me, I'm now thinking that like it's a different sound, especially for newer generations that are not growing with it, like they're not accustomed to it. For
Definitely.
me, it wasn't my music, but it was my mom's music. I was used to listening to it in the house all the time.
This takes us back to the question of memory. You see how the memory of your mother was composed differently, and the music remains in the memory and governs what is our judgment about what happens and what
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah, maybe we could also speak a bit about this. Like we talk about, and you already mentioned a few examples. We talk about the popular song, and it's like by nature, popular songs are meant for the people. But then the idea of the people changed over time and over medium. The people who used to listen to the radio are different from the people who now pick up their apps and then put songs on it and then or watch it on YouTube or whatever. How do you think, like, how does this also change the product that the artist is presenting and the song itself, and how the social message comes across when you change these platforms and when the actual technological evolution gets us to a point where the medium changed, so you also adapt? Does it also change the message itself?
Yes and no. I mean that definitely the change of mediums, the change of rhythm of how we listen. For example, you hear now, you see statistics that singers now are obsessed by creating the impact of the song in the very first 20 seconds in the beginning. In the old times, you used to postpone the exciting parts of the songs to near the end of the song because you have to create this kind of climax build up and end by the most exciting hook of the tune or whatever. uh, Now it's totally reversed because you have to capture the attention of the listener at the very first 20 seconds, because otherwise they will just tick, they will change the track. And in a cassette tape in the 80s or 90s, you don't have this luxury to you have to forward that track. I'm not speaking about vinyl, I'm speaking about a cassette. You don't have this luxury to, if you hate this song, you will have to forward it and then pass wrongly to the other one in the middle of the track, and you will not enjoy yourself. So this is how listening itself, now with this economy of attention, if you can call it, you have this race on attention. You have this change of structure within songs itself, and you have audience that is very, very stratified. I was listening to a video for Mark Fisher, who said something very interesting, that now with the internet, with the abundance of the products who are beyond anyone's capacity to now you'll never know what are the new releases in your own country. You cannot listen to all the new releases. In Egypt, for example, we have between 300 and 400 songs every day released. Imagine. So when I was growing up, I could know what are the new releases this month. It was easy. Now I'm a professional singer and I cannot do it. It's impossible. What audience? Audience are very diversified strata. You have also the comeback of the past. He was saying, Fisher saying, the problem of our times that we cannot see future because all epochs are in parallel and transversely present all together. You can see the number of and viewership and followers of Fayrouz, for example, who are shooting on the internet apps. Is Fayrouz in this perspective a contemporary singer or a singer coming from the past? Because she's competing actually with every new release. And the same could happen with Kulthum, the same happens with whoever. You find tracks coming from the 70s or the 80s, or the now you have people speaking about old songs of Amr Diab like a folk, not like Amr Diab, the very up-to-date singer and stuff. No, look what I discovered. I discovered a track. He was singing like that. He was doing like that. So the problem, and could be the advantage, is that audience is a very vague asocial category to identify. At the same time, the product of what they will document, or what will remain in the history of these times, will be a mosaic, you can say, and an eclectic selection, not only of a very new ethic, but also ethos, sorry, but also the past, what we used to call the past, will be part of this documentation. It's me. I cannot really imagine what will come out of this, but what I can say is that the connotation of the word popular, the connotation of the word audience are now very different, because it's not only a process of sender and receiver. It's more of a shared contribution. Everyone wants to be a creator. There is this mashup culture, mashups and remix cultures who are dominating. Now I see a lot of contemporary artists who are sampling old folk tracks and reusing them, rearranging them in a way that is much more abundant than before. And as I said, the old sounds, what we used to see as old sound, is revitalized as contemporary on social media apps and DSPs, the digital streaming platforms. So it's a very, I can say it's a time maze that we are living in.
It's really nice how you describe it. It also, like, one thing that I found funny is that when people go, and you gave the example of Amr Diab, when people go, oh, Amr Diab, I discovered that,
Yeah,
I feel so old. I'm like,
زمن
no,
الفن الجميل. Yeah,
when did Amr
exactly.
Diab become of the
Yeah, this is a
ancient
shock for people born in the 80s and 90s, of course. Yeah.
true? But also, like, this makes me think about back in the days, the working class and the proletariat had their music. And you could
Mm-hmm.
know that this is their music because in the microbus, as we say in Egyptian, and like the bus, you listen to this. In the cafe, you listen to this. So you know where it is. Like you can contain these songs for this social class. Nowadays, these same songs for these social class are available for everybody, and then some people pick up on it because it's working class music. It's like, oh, it's so cool, I want to,
Cool.
and
Yeah.
then they're like billionaires and rich kids and all of this, and it's this mix of the audience in the digital age is also mixing the social classes. Like you cannot know who's who and which is the popular song for the for this class or not. And it's also it's really interesting to think about this.
Yeah, I would like to build on the microbus theory that Miriam just shared with us. And I mean, like knowing that like music that were quote unquote contained within limited social groups or social classes are now shared by like mostly everyone. Like everyone is listening to rap, or everyone is listening to shabi, or everyone is listening to mahraganot. Uh, how do you think of how do you think of the concept of genres of music and singing, and how would you see that like specific genres or forms would be closer and like consequently more able to impact the audience that is receiving or enjoying this music, seeing that like I mean, I don't want to be like essentialist and say like this music was created for these people and now everyone is listening to it, so it's like diluted and it doesn't have the same impact. But like, what is the impact when it's mashed up in this way?
Yeah. Very good question. Actually, I think, and many other like cultural theorists, they distinguish between the products and the forces of production behind the product. It's like that the product doesn't have one life and one place, or even not one intended audience. When you create a song, you wish maybe that everyone would listen to it, even if you are emanating from a certain class position or point of view or whatever. But I would surprise you a little bit about a main assumption that this class fluidity of the cultural products was there all the time. It's not only the result of having internet. For example, we have taqtuqa in the beginning of the 20th century. You have writings now that you see in the archive that people were complaining, music critics who saw that the taqtuqa as a very low art form, that we see rich people and their daughters playing taqtua on their pianos in their houses. This is a shame. This is a dommage. This is, a catastrophe. You see this document. This is documented. When Adawiya, for example, was there in his beginnings, and people said that Adawiya is coming for the labor class and he is coming to express, don't blame him, he is expressing the working people, he is expressing their sufferings and struggles and stuff. Just 5 years later, Adawiya was the star reviving the weddings of the la creme de la creme in Mina House Hotel in Cairo. And he was very on demand, and he was like booming. So it's not true that a cultural product produced and released at a certain moment and for a certain audience maybe would not travel across time and class, because the forces of production, which is here like a constellation of the production company, the political situation, the other classes' demands, like some people interpreted this because we were in times of defeat after 1967 and we needed something light and something maybe cynical and sarcastic when they try to see the layers in Adawiya's singing, and also getting back to this voice of the very ballady performance stylistics, to get them back after they were much more polished with Abdul Halim Hafiz, for example, when we compare the two stylistics. So there is a kind of nostalgia that resurrected Adawiya from his class position to another. So this is the life of a cultural product like the song is not confined to its conditions of production, the essential conditions of production. It travels when other forces need to place it elsewhere.
Very well said. Thank you.
I think it's
Uh,
also when you were talking, I was trying to remember. I don't remember the name of the author, but if I'm wrong, I'll correct it in the description of the video. There's a writer called Natalie Ola, I think, and she wrote this book about how the upper class in the UK, but also more broadly, is appropriating the working class fashion. Because it's like
Yep.
they pick out items like, I don't know, the sandals with socks that back in the days we were like, if my dad put on the sandals with the socks, I used to cry. I'm like, Dad, you're ashamed.
Shame. Yeah.
Now it's like the look that I don't know who, Prada or
Yeah,
whatever they.
this you can find in Bourdieu's work a lot, like how the class aesthetics are exchanged and assimilated and then repackaged by the upper classes and presented as the cool. And also, this is not a new practice; it's very old. He traces it back to the 18th centuries in France and 16th and.
So like we need to wrap up with the last question, but I'm really excited about this interview. I wanted to like record it for 5 hours. Maybe we just manage to get together, all three of us, at some point in life, and we have this discussion somewhere else. But to to conclude, could you, in your book, you speak about the role of female artists, who championed, as you say, the conservative values at some point in history, in the history of music, maybe in Egypt, but also more broadly. But these female artists were the women who had more power than the average woman or girl, even from the middle class. And and they used this power to literally put up whatever values were socially accepted back then. Could you tell us a bit more about this, but also how does this translate into contemporary artworks? Like, are the female singers still putting more into a gender normativity, class normativity, social values that are constructed within our societies, or has this shifted, as you might have seen?
Yeah, thank you for this great question. I think it's an everlasting paradox that you have this class of female artists who carry a liberated practice, or you can say they are revolutionizing the position of women in their society. When I spoke about the Awalim, for example, in the beginning of 20th century, they were singers, female singers that were actually confined to el harim, the harem, and singing only for women. And then they got this golden chance when recording companies came to the region, foreign recording company, and asked, where are women? Where are women in this industry? And let's get them and record for them. And from here, they started writing a totally different history for female artists in general. At the same time, they had this very, very conservative audience who never saw women performing in public, who never listened to اسطوانات with sounds of women. When you could, as a man, dissipate like this inside the harem and hide yourself just to listen to her voice, to a great singer's voice, this was an achievement to have a man listening to them. So they were faced by these conservative, normative, whatever you call, values of listening and what women can say at the time. When you had Kulthum, for example, Kulthum came from a very conservative environment, a very conservative bringing up, and she entered a market in the city, in Cairo, in the capital, with her legendary talent, of course, and she imposed on her father to accept her ascension from the position of a munshida, just a person who is reiterating religious chants and stuff, to become what she became. So at that time, the choice of the tone and the kind of lyrics and the kind of performance that would fit in this matrix that is really coming out of conservative and patriarchal foundation, very ingrained in this society. So you have also to kind of seduce this audience and gain your gain a progressively gaining land in this industry. You have, for example, on the contrary, you have the battle of Janis Joplin in the rock world when she that ended actually with her ending her life because she was that confrontational. She didn't want a woman to be like a doll in within a rock band, and she started a fight because she wants to write her lyrics, to compose her music. This was by the time unimaginable, unthinkable. So this paradox is important and persisting. And you have, of course, now I think we have more diversity. You have women who actually gained much more voice in writing the narrative of singing female artists in general. They have more channels, but they can also commodify this, you know. You are always able to commodify what is called liberation, what is called the revolution, what is called unimagined before, what is called cool, as you said. So I think this paradox is inherent in culture itself. It happens with language, it happens with fashion, it happens with whatever kind of cultural form.
I I really love this reflection that's like it's been going throughout our conversation between the past and the present, and it makes us reflect on everything that we're listening to and we're doing nowadays, and it's really enjoyable to see this link between music and singing being an art form that's just there, like l'art pour l'art, art just for the sake of art, and it being a public history medium and a tool, but also it's a testimony of our time. And I really loved our conversation. I really hope the people who are going to listen are going to be as curious as we are to go dig in and see who these artists that you mentioned were, if they don't know them, but also to know more about your work and your writings. We're going to make sure to link all of this in the description. Nada.
Appreciate it.
I'm
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you.
Fayrouz, I know that I talked to you, I think in maybe May or early June to have this conversation, and like we managed to do this like within 5 months. That was a miracle. Between your traveling, mine, and Miriam's,
Sure.
I I was very doubtful that like that time that would work for me or Miriam would still be suitable for you. I'm very, very glad that you were like that flexible. And I think it was like really worth it because this was like by far one of my favorite sessions ever. Not only because like I consider myself a friend of yours, but also because like talking about music, something that is you don't have to be an intellectual to listen to music. It's something that everyone does. It makes me think of this episode as very accessible and very, I don't know, like very easy for anyone to listen to and to get something new out of it. Um, Thank you so much for being here. Like I'm really, really glad.
I'm grateful to both of you. Thank you for your generous invitation, for your absolutely creative questions, I can say. I enjoyed the conversation very, very much, and this is much appreciated. Thank you very much, Nada. Thank you, Miriam. It was a beautiful time. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. We're gonna put some links for you to follow Fayrouz's work in her music, but also in her writing and the books if you wanna get the book that we practically just dissected in the interview today. And then this is gonna be posted in the coming few weeks online, so make sure you keep track of all of our interviews, including this one. Thank you.